there is always a solution to every single problem. And immediately you might be thinking, no, there isn't. My problems are not fixable. And if you listen to yourself when you say that, you should start to realize that whilst there may be some certainty to that comment, it doesn't mean that we should always be thinking like that. And immediately, when we tend to get defensive, it typically means we know deep down inside that there is a solution. And maybe there isn't a solution to every single problem, but there's definitely a solution in terms of the way you react to certain problems. And that's the most important thing, because that determines the sort of next steps that you take as compared to the situation. And thinking like that will save you from so much drama, so much toxicity, and just overall just puts you in better scenarios, just because your sort of more energy kind of goes towards putting yourself into better situations. And today on the game, we're going to get some more resources. So we're going to clear up the farm some more. We're going to stock up on wood. Actually, no, before we do that, we need money on this game, don't we? So let's see if there's any tasks in the town to do. Now again, not every single problem is going to be solvable in the sense of if it's outside of your control. Again, you've got an external environment for a reason, right? You're not just going to have world peace in just one day just because, you think you have the solution. It's a lot more than that, and it's a lot more than that because of the reason that there's so many people on this planet, and that we all of our choices together make a difference on the world. So again, it's not just going to be us alone. That's why I'm really big on leading by example, because you help people realize things within themselves, even though they might not realize it. And whilst that kind of statement may be tough to digest, it sounds very true. And sometimes when you try to maybe change or help people and they don't really seem to, listen too well, maybe it's family or friends or, whoever it is that you sort of maybe try to educate on your perspective, it might just be their lesson to sort of overcome those obstacles that you might have been, I guess, teaching them, because sometimes you have to go through direct experience in order to learn some things. Anyway, that's me babbling on a little bit. And just like that, we're going to get some money because Sam wants a red snapper, that's a red mullet, never mind. But yeah, any kind of problem that might exist in your head, or maybe some, limitations you might have in your mind, these are all things that are always going to be sort of solvable by facing the issues within yourself. And again, if you're putting yourself in scenarios where you might be thinking, why am I even in this kind of scenario, and why do I keep repeating the same mistakes? These are the kind of things you can control, because you're just going to be sort of, and even the way you feel when you think about it, it's all up to you to feel however you want to feel. And that's why you might not be a fan of many of the, the red pillars and all that stuff, because they take things into extremes. But just like everything, you should take it with a grain of salt and see how you can apply even the bad things into your life sometimes. Now, I'm not saying you should go out and do bad things. However, you can learn from it, because the human sort of psyche, if you will, there's reasons to why we do all of the different things. And sometimes we come to the same conclusions as to why we do it in the first place. I'm not gonna lie, I think my favorite thing to do in this game is scything. It's so satisfying. It's actually the best thing ever. And plus, when you start to think that, you can get through some things and that it's in your control to how you react, when you start to pull out of scenarios like that, you start to think of life as being less problematic. Maybe a lot of you might be sort of living life every day just complaining, or just saying to yourself, oh man, there's a bunch of problems, there's a bunch of negativity in the world, and it will never change. Which it might not, but what kind of human experience would that be? So I say we try to change our perspective on that, because no matter what, even if you think about it in business, for example, right? Look at how many products have come to existence since even the last 100 years. Even the device you're on was a solution to a problem. The problem of, global communication and spreading your messages out to the world, and essentially globalization in that sense, right? And you can apply the same thing to your life. You just have to think about it differently. again, if you're with a toxic sort of crowd, you have to learn to step away from that. You don't want to just completely disintegrate it, because again, that's going to be troublesome for you. But you can always sort of kind of go away from it slowly over time. Not only that, but you could always apply that to, again, if you're someone who likes to doom scroll quite a lot, there is always a solution to doom scrolling, right? Which is to stop and to replace that with something that's better. And so there's solutions to every single one of the problems that exist. Maybe you don't have enough money. Maybe you have to learn a skill that can earn you that money. Because the thing is, we all want nice things in life, but are we really in the state of mind to achieve it? Do we really deserve it in that sense? You might be working hard, but are you being creative with your work? Are you finding creative solutions to these problems? Are you taking action to become better, essentially? Because once you realize that, you start to take control of life, and you don't let life control you. And in the sense of, you determine how your life goes, to the most part, to at least maybe like 70-80% of your decision making skills and things like that, where you kind of place yourself. Are you placing yourselves in places of opportunity or places of fear? Are you placing yourself in where there's opportunities of love, or are you placing them in opportunities of fear? Are you placing yourself in opportunities that are going to help you, make you feel more fulfilled? Or are you going to put yourself in I don't know how to use opportunities again, but opportunities of breaking down, staying stagnant, and just pretty much being the same? And even at times like that, there's not really a problem, because sometimes you need a little bit of patience. You need to take a little step back and rest a little bit. But for the most part, because you're so strong mentally, you can do anything that your mind can think of. Apart from flying, of course, because, you know, there's some limitations to that. But for the most part, yeah, you can do whatever your mind will sort of tell itself. And even still, the label that we have, which is, again, things like problems, we like to label a lot of things that exist within our life. Rather than calling it a problem, we could call it an opportunity for growth, because without the problem, we wouldn't be pushed into this kind of, again, opportunity. I keep saying that word today, but yeah, the opportunity to basically get better and to learn the lesson of what the problem is giving you. If it's a problem that kind of comes with being overly emotional, then maybe we need to pay attention to what is making us emotional. If it's given us a problem physically, maybe you're injured from something, maybe it's time to give your body a listen. Because a lot of times we don't like to listen to our body sometimes. We kind of force it to do things without actually listening to it, because of just the way that our mind works sometimes, right? If it's a problem mentally, maybe you face some anxiety or some tough days, then maybe we need to change perspective. Are we expecting certain things in life? Are we constantly thinking about where life is going to go for ourselves? And are we constantly in this kind of imaginary state of mind where we just keep thinking about what could happen rather than what is happening, and basically being stuck in your head, with a whole bunch of judgment that doesn't really necessarily exist? It's just stuff you just like to put fuel in, because our minds kind of crave that kind of feeling. It wants to be busy, right? So oftentimes we'll create problems for ourselves within our own mind. And guess what the solution to that is? Mindfulness. Not mindlessness. I don't even know if that's a word. Mindless is a word. You don't want to be mindless, you want to be mindful. And so oftentimes what we will do is never get into that state of mind of being mindful, just because our brain kind of likes the idea of being mindless and out of control and stuff like that. So what would you do in cases like that, where there's a problem of being mindless? So you pretty much figure out a way to be mindful that is really easy to do. A lot of people, when they think of being mindful, they just think of meditation. They think of like some crazy yoga pose where you gotta be like, you know, legs crossed and all that stuff. Nah. You can be mindful in so many different ways. You can be mindful in the sense of even playing a game like this, where it kind of makes you in the present moment, where you can kind of think a little bit about yourself. You can do it through baking. I know a lot of people do it through baking, cooking, exercise sometimes, walking, running, weightlifting sometimes for other people. You've got journaling, you've got art, whatever kind of kickstarts that kind of creative juice within you that gives you joy. You'll learn so much more about yourself, man. And there we go. You kind of have a solution to the problem of being mindless. And again, there's always going to be problems that we need to work on, right? There's always going to be. But it's just about how we really handle it and what kind of solutions we try to offer. Not to combat it, but to more understand it and kind of bring it to a better path. Because every problem can be transformed into something better. It's just that we tend to mask a lot of things rather than tackle the root cause of it. And again, because I noticed a lot of my videos that talk about things like stress and stuff like that, they seem to do better than others. Maybe I feel like we need to start putting more of a focus on how we can better ourselves, how we can change our outlook on the problems that exist within our lives and treat them accordingly. Because without the problems, you wouldn't be as strong as you are today. You wouldn't have as much knowledge. Because oftentimes a lot of when you kind of go through these phases where you gain knowledge, it typically comes through pain. Because that's just the way that life treats us. Sometimes it just gives us that pain in order to really realize, oh, and we passed out. Nice. What's this? What's this gone on? Mystery boxes. Oh, we need to explore tomorrow then. But yeah, since it's a pretty big topic within this community, I feel like we'll try to, again, put more of an emphasis on handling it differently. Because a lot of times we can get into some pretty bad habits when we have a problem in our life. A lot of people like to run away from their problems. Some people like to maybe binge eat or do some kind of emotional thing to sort of try to fix it. And sometimes they're good to do because, again, you're not going to be like completely mentally strong at all times, right? You're obviously going to have them off days, but for the most part, we shouldn't get into the habit of doing that because we want to learn what the problem is giving us. We want to learn about the opportunity, and everything in life is always about opportunity because you wake up every day and there's always something to learn, either about yourself or the world or the people in the world. Again, if we talk about the problem of maybe mental health again, maybe this is a sign that you need to start chasing your dreams, for example, or maybe the way that you're living isn't up to par. And you wouldn't have to realize that unless you go through the problem. You see what I'm getting at? And again, it will suck because why do we need to go through such pain to learn? That's just how we learn sometimes. I don't know, man. That's just how it is. But again, there's always a solution, and that's to figure out what is it? What is the problem? Why is it happening? Where is it stemming from? And how can I fix this? Rather than immediately going for, again, if we say emotional eating, maybe we could go for a nice kind of study session with yourself to the point where you start to question and be like, you know what? This is going to end up making my life a lot better. So let's be happy whilst I work on this problem or whatever it is that's going on, right? Let's try to work on our reaction because that just makes life that more joyful and it enhances my human experience. So remember to tackle all your problems with a smile on your face because again, it's going to shape you into a better person. On that note, peace and blessings to you all and keep working on yourself, man. Proud of you.